just, it's not good.
I spent the whole day in one blazer.
I'm concerned about the four of you.
This is going to be a
Really good. I'm responding to what called all hymns and classic tradition. We tear down everything so it's supposed to involve into dark front in the back by designing the pattern for the show.
Hello. Welcome. Can everyone hear me? If you could type in the chat here that you can hear me, I want to make sure that sound is working. Can people hear me? Volume would be good. To hear me would be good.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Great. All right. So I'm going to try and mute people here. For some reason, it's not allowing me to mute. So some people I cannot mute here. Okay, cool. You can hear me. So let me just see if I can mute. No, it's not. Okay, so let's go. For some reason, I can't mute everybody. But so let's go over a couple things here. One thing with this fibromyalgia, it's really good if people participate. What I mean by that, if you have a question, type it in and I'll try and answer, because I'll be honest with you, questions are everything. If you have a question, the person in Florida or Alabama or wherever probably has the same question. So questions are really critical. And even you can come on, I'll let people unmute. Allow people. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, you can do that as well. I just really encourage questions because that really makes these webinars and people get more value out of it when there's questions asked. So don't be afraid to ask. All right. So first of all, I kind of want to go over who I am. You're on this webinar. How did I get here? What kind of a doctor am I? So just to give you, okay, now two people can see the screen, right? People see the screen where it says scan me for the notes. I want to make sure people can see that. That's what's being shown. If someone can just mark yes for the screen, you can see the screen, you can see the notes. Yes for the screen. If you could put yes for the screen, would be great.
Yes.
So, yes. Okay, good. All right. So let's go. All right. So to give you a little background on me, so these two pictures, I'm going to go over these two pictures here. Is the first picture on the right here is my dad. And my dad was he died in the medical system. And that's point and blank. The medical system killed him. There was no love. There was no compassion. There's nothing in the medical system except the only two solutions my dad ever was given were 1, drugs, and 2, surgery. And that was it. And when he died, he was on 16 medications every single day of his life. He was 400 pounds.
Oh.
And he would never listen to me. Like we come from a very traditional family. The son's here, the dad's here, and you don't speak to your dad. I mean, it was very traditional. Like I love my dad. He raised me well, but there was no compassion or caring in the system. And the only thing my dad was ever given was a freaking drug. That was it. There's no like, wait, let's try this. Let's do this. It's uncurable. What you have is uncurable. The only thing that we have that can help you is a freaking drug. And he, I just kind of envisioned this day happening, and he's been passed away now for, my son's 13, about 11 years. I was cutting grass, and it was on a beautiful spring day. And I get this call, and my mom's frantic, and he's had a stroke, right? So we go down to the hospital. That was on a Thursday, and Mother's Day happened to be that Sunday, right? So Thursday had the stroke, Mother's Day is Sunday. And on Sunday, he was brain dead. Like there's nothing that could be done. He was on a trachea. We pulled the trachea. And that's when I lost my dad. So if you're out there and you're suffering and you have pain, I want to let you know that there's freaking hope out there. Like the conventional system gives people no hope. And I'll be going over some of these things. It's just ridiculous. There's no hope for people. They tell people fibromyalgia is incurable, and that locks you into their system. It locks you into their system of going back and relying on drugs and harder drugs and whatever the solution is. So there's hope. And I'm going to go over some very, very powerful protocols that I have really keyed in, have really mastered these, and these are very, very critical. Now, the picture here on the left, okay, so this is me. This is me in high school, and they used to call me Huge, right? My first name is Hugh. My nickname was Huge, right? I was in high school. I was about 5'6". I weighed 240 pounds. I remember walking up the stairs, gasping for air. I was using Pepto-Bismol for heartburn. I couldn't button my pants up. It was just horrible. Right. So I went up to the Boundary Waters when I was going into 10th grade, and I had a spiritual connection with myself. And that spiritual connection was I can actually change my health around. And I lost 10 pounds up there. And within a matter of 6 months, I lost 80. And that's what really brought me to this healthcare. So my training is I'm a chiropractor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a gynecologist. I'm not a radiologist. I'm a chiropractor. Now, I have special training in functional medicine, functional neurology, and functional blood medicine. And I started getting into that roughly about maybe 13 years ago. And 3 years ago, I actually sold my practice. I had a successful practice with two other colleagues. I sold it to them. And now I just do functional medicine, telemedicine, and I help people all over the world through telemedicine. All right, so let's get onto this. So these are the protocols right here. Now, I just want to go over this right here where it says, is fibromyalgia curable? And this is what that says. This comes from basically your government is saying there is no cure for fibromyalgia, right? The government tells you that. That means that all the people, all the doctors, I think the doctors are good. They're just, the system's broken, right? So if fibromyalgia is uncurable, what do the doctors have to tell you? Well, it's uncurable. It's an uncurable disease. There's no solution for you except drugs and therapies and exercises. Well, I'm here to tell you, like, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of cases of fibromyalgia and they get better. They recover. Now, do you have to do some maintenance? Do you have to do some work to figure out what's going on? And then once you fix it, then you have to do some maintenance to maintain that? Yeah, of course. It's just like me losing 80 pounds. To this day, I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50 in a month. Like, it's on my mind every day. I'd love to go to Dairy Queen every single day of my life. I would. I love Dairy Queen. I love sweets. It's on my mind freaking all the time, but I know that I can't. I know that I have to maintain this and have self-control, or else I will go back to being what I was. And that's simple, right? Okay, let's go over the first protocol. And this is critical. Does anyone have any questions at all? Does anyone just type in some questions or unmute yourself and answer some questions? Let's get in the basic protocol first. And I'm hoping that there's going to be some questions here because questions are always fun. So this is a basic protocol that you can do at home. Now, one of the things here is when you look at my notes, keep it simple, right? All my stuff, all my protocols are simple. Now, there might be a lot of clinical thought behind it. There might be there might be 10 years of experience behind it. But at the end, the practical, what I'm applying is simple. Now, you have to have a whole bunch of understanding and knowledge to apply something simple that's going to get a result. And this first thing is simple. You can do this at home. This is something that you can do at home. Very simple. You want to go and buy a glucose meter, right? Something that you just buy on Amazon, and I have some links here. What I want to go over first of all is your glucose levels. Now, I believe in God. I believe in God created us. So I believe that if you follow the laws of Mother Nature, you're going to get well. Now, one of the laws of Mother Nature is having a glucose level that's within a healthy range. Now, you're going to want to write this down because this isn't on any notes. Now, the glucose range with or without food, okay, this is critical, with or without food should be between 85 and 120. So when you don't do this protocol, I'll be going over how to do the protocol. It should be between 85 and 120 with or without food. Now, everyone can see this normal glucose pattern right here. Now, you're going to see normal. It says 85 to 99. That's a fasting glucose. So it should be 85 to 120 with or without food. Now, every time that you prick your finger here, you see this little white dot right here. You see how this graph goes? It's a little white dot. So this person has pricked their finger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Let's say this is in one day. All right, 9 times in one day. And you'll see why you want to do that. So this person has pricked their finger 9 times in one day, and it falls within the 85 to 120 range. So what does this tell us? This tells us that this person has a normal glucose response. Now, why do you want a normal glucose response? Because glucose is what delivers energy to your muscles. So if you have fibromyalgia right now, you have some kind of delivery problem. Something is happening to the muscles. Either it's not getting enough, it's getting too much, or it has some kind of toxic in it. That's really what happens. So we talk about glucose levels. You need to be consistent with your glucose of 85 to 120, with or without food. Now, in here, this would be a hypoglycemic pattern. So you can see they prick their finger, and what happens here? They fall in the yellow range. So this is less than 85. So if you fall less than 85, you're not getting proper glucose to your muscles. I'm not trying to geek out too much here, but to your mitochondria. Like within one cell, mitochondria is the energy. They do many more things than just produce energy, but we're just going to focus on that. With one cell, like God created us, we have about 100 trillion cells in our body. And within one cell, check this out, in one cell, there's 500 to 2,000 mitochondria in each individual cell. Just imagine that. Now, your heart has a lot of mitochondria because it's always pumping. So this glucose is what feeds your mitochondria. It gives its constant fuel. So if you drop down here to this hypoglycemic state in this yellow, you're not getting good delivery system of fuel. And therefore, your muscles aren't getting good delivery of fuel. And then there's problems. Then there's fibromyalgia. And then here, this person here, then they jump up. Remember, this is over 120 with food. They jump up in the red, and then they go back down to the yellow. This is a bad pattern. And I'm telling you, I see really sick people. I see people that are bedridden. I see people that need to use walkers because they are so bad off. Like I see the worst of the worst cases. And 95% of the people that come to me have some kind of sugar problem. The fancy word is called dysglycemia. They have a sugar dysregulation problem that no one's looked at, no one's addressed, totally blown off in the medical system. All right, so that's a hypoglycemic pattern. Now, let's go to this. Now we're going to scroll down. We're going to go to insulin resistance or too much. Now, you can see here that you're always in the red, right? This is red, 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 red. And then you get one green, and then down here, you're into the yellow. This is another dangerous pattern. If your sugars are high or low, either or, this causes chronic systemic inflammation in your body. So let me just state that again. If your sugar levels are high or low, right, like this mixed pattern here, this causes systemic inflammation in your body. Now, one thing when it comes to working with people that have fibromyalgia or chronic illness is there is no silver bullet. There is no one thing that's going to reverse your case. That doesn't happen. There are 5 or 6, 7, 8 single bases, right? When you talk about baseball, the grand slam doesn't win the games consistently. Single bases do. So my approach is how many single bases can we get going where we're going to start to move the needle? It's all about single bases. Nothing's a grand slam, right? I remember my grandma when she was passing away. I mean, this is 20 years ago. She was always hopeful that there was this magic pill that was going to save her life, that was going to reverse her condition. That just doesn't happen. There's no magic bullet. There's single bases. So if you get really good at hitting single bases, and I'm really good at hitting single bases, you're going to recover. It's just that simple. You work with the laws of Mother Nature, not against, you get better. Okay. Here, you can buy this meter right here, $30 on Amazon. At least, oh, it's gone up. All right. So it was as low as 19. It's interesting, these prices. Like when I go, I think it was 19, then it was 24, now it's 43. So it's interesting on these prices. You buy this meter, right? It gets some extra of these little finger pricks. How many people here have a meter? Just put yes if you have a meter. Type in there in the chat. Do you have a meter? Okay, so you buy this meter, you buy some extra of these blood glucose little slips right here. Okay, so someone has a meter? Yes, Gene has a meter. All right. All right, so here, let's go back. Now, here's the protocol. Gene, I'm going to ask you a question. How many times a day do you check your sugar levels? Or do you check them, or is it just random? Here's the protocol. You wake up in the morning, you check your glucose. Before you eat, you check your glucose. 30 minutes after, you check your glucose once or twice a day, okay? 1 hour after you eat a meal, 2 hours after you eat a meal, and right before you go to bed. And you might be thinking, wow, this is a lot of pricking. And it is a lot of pricking, but guess what? You only have to do this for a week. You get a solid week in and you're going to know. So then you can rule this in or rule it out. It's really simple. You either have the problem or you don't. Questions with that? Type in questions. All right. So let's go over to some case studies, which I think are pretty cool. So these are actual live clients. These are people that I'm working with. Let me try and minimize some of these things here. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go over some labs right here. So this is a client right here. Before I go over that, I'm just going to go over this thing right here. So this is a really cool, interesting video. It doesn't work. The video doesn't work on Zoom. You can't hear it. So I'm just going to tell you, I'll just give you the plot. So in our body. So to give you a reference point, right? So in our body, we have 1 teaspoon of sugar in our veins, in our blood. 1 teaspoon. Like that's not a lot. Like literally 1 teaspoon. If you have consistently have 2 tablespoons of sugar in your bloodstream, you are a full-blown diabetic and you have probably blood sugar over 200. So let me just say that again. 1 teaspoon is roughly blood sugar of around 100. 2 tablespoons is you're over 200. 1 teaspoon. Now, if you eat a piece of bread has roughly 19 grams. So there's about 4 grams. There's roughly 4 grams in a teaspoon, right? 4 grams in a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons consistently, you're full-blown diabetic. In 1 piece of bread, it's 19 grams. So that's significant. You can see like, holy smokers, that is insane. And it is insane when you look at that. So let's go over this person here. So what you're seeing right here, these are some labs that I've ran on clients. And you can see this right here. You see this as insulin. You see this as 16. And you can see the range right here. I wonder if I can, let me see if I can use my pen. 16, you see that. And then you see the range here is 24. This range should be 5 to 6. So insulin, I'm going to use a visual. When glucose goes up, insulin goes up. They go hand in hand. Sugar goes up, insulin goes up. That's just how God designed it. So now remember, this is a fasting level. Fasting, you really want to see this between 5 and 6. This is where normal, healthy human beings live. But if you go in the medical system and they take your insulin, which they don't, because they're not going to check that on you because they just don't. And if this comes at 16.9, they're going to tell you you're completely what? Fine, right? This isn't fine. This is where fibromyalgia lives. So this is a problem. So insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone. Glucose is a pro-inflammatory hormone. Insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone. Now, this person, he was tons of pain and, just lots of pain. Okay, so let me erase this here. Now let's go on to this next marker here. This is where you kind of evaluate things and see what you have. Like labs are like fishing nets. Let's look at your physiology. Here's C-reactive protein, which is basically a global inflammatory marker. It doesn't tell you where the inflammation is. It just tells you you're inflamed. This is 5.71. Anything above 3 is high for cardiovascular risk. Functionally, right, healthy, normal human beings live in less than 1. So right now, this is a problem. Her vitamin D, I love this one. Vitamin D here, you see this is 38. See the range? 30 to 100. So her vitamin D is completely what? Normal. That's not normal. 80 is healthy. See, these are the nuances that come in. When people say, oh, fibromyalgia, it's uncurable. The government says it's uncurable. Yeah, it's uncurable because the tools that you're using don't work. If you use tools that work, it gets better. Now, this is her labs. This is insane. Like you see this 20 right here? This is her glucose. Her glucose was 20. Like she had no idea she had this pattern, 20. Right? Then it's 123, then 89, 107, 23. 185, 80. So you can see here's 47. So what did we find with this person right here? We did a thorough history. We went over to the labs. We validated the labs, and then we set her up on a program. And we did some data collection, and she clearly is not good when it comes to the glucose levels. So there's no supplement that can handle this. Like this is like lifestyle, dietary, doing the correct monitoring to figure this out. And then here you can just see like, what she's really eating here, like oatmeal. If people think oatmeal's healthy, oatmeal's very bad. Oatmeal causes fibromyalgia. Oatmeal causes increased sugar, increased insulin. Yes. All right. Now here's another gal, client 2. I just spoke to her on Monday, and she has a hard time walking. She's a young person. She was actually hurt by antibiotics. So I was looking at her glucose levels, and I don't like these levels at all because remember the range here? The range should be between 85 and 120 with or without food, right? Look at this. She's all 83, 78, 80. She's on the low end, right? She's on the low end. So I don't like that at all. Like this tells me like she's not eating enough. She's generally in a hypoglycemic condition. Then right here jumped up to 77. You have to remember you need good fuel supply, right? All right, so that's the case. I'm going to come back to the blood pressure because I'm going to be covering that in a second too. All right, and then here's our third case. Here's a guy that basically has been damaged by antibiotics. That's ciprofloxacin, constant knee, joint pain, surgery's not healing, difficult to nap, and muscle pain. So look at this right here. This person, he has a hemoglobin, A1C. Let me get my pen out. You see this is 5.8. Let me get this. Here we go. 5.8. You see the range. You want this around 5. Insulin 10, this is high, and this is really, really critical. I'll be going over this in a little bit. You see the iron? See, this is high. Iron is bad. I find a lot of people that have too much iron. Iron rusts. If you have too much iron in your muscles, guess what's going to happen to your muscles? They're going to rust. That's a really simplistic viewpoint of it, but it rusts. There's too much iron in there. It's going to cause fibromyalgia. This is another more sophisticated iron marker, ferritin. You see here, his is 392. You see this range is crazy, 30 to 400. This should be around 40 to 80. This is a marker for how much iron is stored in your organs. He's loaded with a bunch of iron. On top of that, he has sugar problems and insulin problems. That's just a few. But you can see how you connect the dots here and you start to solve things. You start to figure things out because you have someone that's in your corner that knows what's going on. Okay, those are the cases. Checking your blood sugar. Here, I want to answer this question by Kim. Checking your blood sugar is if you don't know whether it's within normal. I recently had blood work and it was fine. Okay, so here I want to, this is a really good point. Thank you for saying this, Kim. When you go and you get blood work, that's one point in time. And the fasting morning blood glucose is the most inaccurate test that you can have. You might be fine. You might be looking whatever that range is, whatever it came back, but you eat something and it jumps up to 150. Boom, boom. You just found a problem that this test doesn't check. So if this might have happened to you other than Kim, is like you went to the doctor and they say, oh, my sugar's fine. It's within normal limits. That's one marker fasting. This is where you have to do the protocol. This is where you have to do the 15 checks a day for a week to rule it in or rule it out. That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. All right. So here, what are some symptoms of sugar dysregulation? And if you want to go back and you want to watch, you're welcome, Kim. If you want to go back and watch these videos, they're all set up for you. You can do that. So these are common symptoms of dysglycemia, which is basically meaning that your sugars are all over the place. Fatigue, insomnia, mood swings, anxiety, depression, thinning hair, hormonal problems, and inability to lose weight. And I'd be willing to bet you everyone here has these things. Then here, this is a hypoglycemic pattern, right? So that's when you're into the yellow, you drop down in the yellow, is if you have energy with meals, okay? So if you eat food and you get more energy, that's a problem. The only thing that should happen, these are all indicators, right? The only thing that should happen is when you eat food is that your hunger pain should go away. That is it. If you get gas, if you get bloating, if you get more energy, if you get less energy, these are all signs that you have a sugar dysregulation problem. If you get gas or bloating, that's telling you that you have like a GI issue that needs to be addressed on top of your blood sugar dysregulation. If you start getting lightheaded or shakiness, these are classic signs of a hypoglycemic condition. And then finally here, this is an insulin resistance. This is like when you're in the red. Is you basically you're fatigued after meal. So if you eat food, and then you are fatigued afterwards, is it probably telling you that you have some kind of insulin resistance or too much? I'm gonna ask a question to the group because I'll cover it if there's a problem here, or if this is an issue. If not, I'll go over something else. So does anyone here have problems waking up at night? So just put in the box there, yes, just Y for yes if you have sleep problems or you wake up, let's say at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m.
Hello.
Hello? We hear you. Do you hear us? Is this hello? Okay. So if you can put in the chat, are you waking up at, let's say, 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 4 a.m.?
Hello.
All right, now here, this is a nice graph. So you see right here on the left is hypoglycemia, then hyperglycemia. So they all lead to, you see right there is decreased ATP or energy production. So these patterns lead to a decreased energy. Decreased energy leads to fatigue. Fatigue will lead to fibromyalgia, sore muscles, and an array of other different problems. Okay. Now here, if you click this button right here, this is going to take you to just my content on insulin because glucose and insulin go hand in hand. So in here, we talk about insulin and inflammation, insulin and neuropathy. And just to give you kind of a case here. So this is one of my clients. You see that insulin there? Check this out. 40 freaking 1, right? 41. And the range, I mean, it should be like around 5 to 6. This is bad news bears, right? No one's caught this. Now here's another graph. This is a really good graph. I like pictures. I learn by pictures. Most people learn by pictures. I'm going to use my pen on this one. So you can see here we have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Everyone see that? And then here we have insulin. So insulin's higher here. Makes sense? Now you can see carbohydrates is this brown. You see what happens when you eat carbohydrates? Your insulin does what? Spikes. Inflammation. Now you have protein, which is in the blue, less of a spike, and then fats, less of a spike. Right? So this is a hormone. Insulin is a hormone. So these are things that you can like look at, modify, and try and change. We got another question here. Try and change to decrease your insulin levels. Let me answer this question. I love questions. I get severe headaches daily between 3 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. It wakes me up from my sleep. I take Tylenol before I go to bed. I suffer with migraines my whole life. I mean, there's a lot of things with migraines. My kidney, the kidney transplant in 2000 developed fibromyalgia. This year it's been off the charts. I can't. So here's what happens with sleep as a possibility. Is when you are, let me erase some of these things here. When you're sleeping, let me just pull up another graph here. Let me get back to this right here. So what happens is when you are sleeping, usually what happens is your sugar levels will fall.
Interesting.
So when you sleep, right? So when you sleep, your sugar levels will fall below 85. Now, when they fall below 85, your brain senses that, and then your body produces the anxiety hormones to wake you up.
Interesting.
Very interesting, isn't it? So it wakes you up, and then that will break down sugars. Norepinephrine and epinephrine break down sugars. So here's a simple hack. Before you go to bed, you take some something that's fat and protein, and eat that before you go to bed. And hopefully that can maintain that sugar levels. Now, it's not 100% bulletproof. There's other things that you'd want to address and look at, but that's a little hack for that. Okay. Now here, and before I go on to the other couple things, I want to do this right here. If people are suffering, if you want some guided help, it's really simple. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. You click this button here. It's a discovery call. It's where you and I get on the phone. You'll fill out some paperwork and see if there's any possible way that you can get some guided help. You scroll down here, and I have appointments Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So you just click a button here, like it says the 20th, and then you see right here it says 10 a.m. or 11:30. Let me just go through it, and then you just hit continue, and then you go to the next stage. Now, this right here, I have about 4 or 5 calls that are available Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then my next available is like mid-November, right? So I made some appointments here. So if you go look at my calendar, you see how nothing's available in November. So these spots are available. It's $47. And we have a conversation and see how we can get you better. I do know this. People that get guided help, it eliminates all the confusion, right? You have someone, a guide, to say, let's do step A, let's do step B, and let's figure this out. Someone that is guiding you, that cares about you. And we have a bunch of conversations, communications back and forth. You're just not stuck in an island. People that have problems don't get better because they don't have a direction. They don't have a guide that takes your hand and says, let's do this. This is what you need to do. This is this is the content you need to watch. These are the supplements you need to do very, very specifically. That's the kind of results that we're getting with these plans. Okay, next thing here is we're on number 2, which is the Chi machine. I'm going to try and wrap this up by 7. A lot of people that come to me have a hard time moving. They're in pain. They can't exercise. They have a hard time putting weight on their joints. And there's probably people on this call that are just like that. So this is a Chi machine. Now, what this does is, let me go to the notes here. I'm going to show you this on a YouTube video, just so you can see what this does. Okay, now you can see, the feet are moving, right? It's going back and forth just like a fish. This is what the Chi machine does, is you put your legs in it and it moves back and forth gently. Now, let me get back to the page here. So this right here, 15 minutes is like doing a 90-minute walk. So if you can't have a hard time moving because you have fibromyalgia, a big component is exercise. And I understand a lot of people can't exercise. A lot of people I initially work with can't exercise. So I put them on this Chi machine. It's very easy. It's very gentle. You can do this in your bed. You don't have to do 15 minutes. You can start off with 1 minute. You can start off with 2 minutes, 3 times a day. Get something moving. And what this does is it causes your muscles to relax, your nerves to relax, your lymph to start draining. Anytime you move, right? When you move like this, that also causes blood flow to get deep into the tissues. It's called perfusion. So one benefit of exercise is it pushes blood deep into the tissues. So if you have a fibromyalgia problem, one of the things that may be happening is you're not getting enough blood flow into the tissues. One, maybe your blood pressure is too low. Second thing is that you're not moving enough. So the Chi machine very easily and gently allows you to get like exercise without having to run or go to the gym. And you don't put weight on your joints, which is very critical. So this is a Chi machine. I tell people just get a used one. Click this button. You go to eBay, and you don't need to pick one up that's $155. You can pick one that's $82, $49, $39. You pick one up, right? And this lasts forever, and this has been revolutionary for my clients, like people that have a hard time walking, people that can't get upstairs, in pain, knee pain, gout. Like this has been a very critical piece of technology. It's simple, but it took me a long time to come up with these things. Okay. The Chi machine, I think I covered everything on the Chi machine I wanted to cover. All right. Now here, I'm also going to go over this right here. I'm going to go over blood pressure. Now, this may or may not be an issue for some people. I find it is an issue for my clients. And this is blood pressure that's suboptimal. So blood pressure, when you have blood pressure that's low. Now, in the conventional system, if you have suboptimal blood pressure, and I would say suboptimal blood pressure is anything like around 108 to 75. Now, in the conventional system, they're going to give you high fives and say, that's great. That's not great. Because what does the blood pressure do? It pushes nutrients deep into the tissues. So if you have suboptimal blood pressure on top of sugar dysregulation, like you have, like there's a problem here, right? So if you have sugar dysregulation, your blood is thick, right? Inflammation, the blood is thick. So if you have low blood pressure, you're not getting the blood. The capillaries can only allow one red blood cell through these things. So if you have thick blood, it's like gunky. It's like sludge. The blood is like sludge, and it can't get deep in the capillaries and feed the muscles. And then you have this fibromyalgia. So low blood pressure is bad. Also, too high blood pressure is. But my clientele, especially women, a lot of women have like low or suboptimal blood pressure. Now, if I go to this case right here, I'm going to show you this gal here. So you can see these are guided people. These are things that I've done that I know work. So let's go over this gal right here, because maybe this can be you, right? Like these patterns could be you. So in here, we went over this. She was hypoglycemia. So she has dysregulation. She's low, she's high. And then here's your blood pressure. So 126. And then look at this, 96 over 65, 100 over 76, 102 over 74. This is not good. Now, the conventional system, what are they going to do? They're going to give you a high five and say, that's great. It's not great. This is a problem. Is it helpful with people who have RA? Yeah. I mean, it's helpful for anyone that has any kind of joint problems. You just got to go slow, right? That you're referring to the key machine, I'm assuming. So right here, we found some problems with her blood sugar. So you can see here how we're like trying to connect the dots. So if you can find 5 or 6, 7, 8 things that you can do, and then you can do single base runs on these things in a combination, you're going to get better. It's not incurable. There's hope. There's possibility for you to get well and enjoy the life that, you know, God designed us to be on this planet for, not to be sick and miserable. There's too many people that are sick and miserable, man. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Here's a case. She's off 4 different pain medications if you want to see that. Okay, so we went over the blood pressure protocol. Now I want to go over here is the triple threat fibromyalgia problem. One is that you have hypoglycemia, right? So we went over those things, you know, hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia or this mixed pattern. The second thing is subclinical low blood pressure. That's bad. And then the third thing here is subclinical anemia. So let me go over a couple things, because I found there's like people fall on 2 ends. Either they don't have enough iron or they have too much. You can have both. Like it's not one or the other. It's not like if I have fibromyalgia, I have low iron. Like that's a possibility. It's also a possibility like I have fibromyalgia and I have too much iron. And both of these are always they're overlooked. It's like they can't be overlooked because iron's a very toxic metal in excess, and it's devastating if you don't have enough, right? So the triple threat is subclinical anemia or too much iron. So I got some blogs on this. So all these blogs here I've created all these blogs. So let me show you this right here. Let me go back here. All right, these are just, if you want to geek out, these are some research studies. I'll just click this just so you can see, like, this is actually research data. There's a relationship between vitamin D and iron levels. So if your vitamin D is low, that can affect your iron. Here's a research study on iron deficiency, the risk of fibromyalgia with iron deficiency anemia. So this is a huge study, massive study. And they found a correlation. This is 13,000 women or 13,000 people, I think. I'm not sure it was just women. But if you have anemia, you have fibromyalgia. Now, you might be in the subclinical anemia where there's a range. Like, okay, you can be diagnosed. If you're here with anemia, you can be diagnosed with anemia. Yep. The medical systems works in black and white. That's not how the human body works. There's gray areas. Like there's like the beautiful summer day right in the center. And then there's this gray area. And as you start to separate and go more outward, it becomes more, it starts from gray, black, right? So this is how the human body works, but in the conventional system, it's either black or white. So this is what I want to show you here. So you can see just so you get a visual, this is normal here on the left. You see all those red blood cells, and this is anemic. You see there's not as many red blood cells there. That delivers oxygen, nutrients. Now this right here, this is a test that I run. And I order tests all over the country. I work with LabCorp that are all over the country. There's probably one right next to your, a few miles away. So this is ferritin, right? So this is an iron storage marker, and you can see that's low. You can see the range is 16 to 145. So that's not good. That's a low iron level. Now here, I just threw this in today. Now here's the exact opposite. This is a client of mine. Here's ferritin, 363, and it should be 40 to 80. So you can see how these labs here really make a difference to fine tune, to fine tune on what's actually happening. I have a couple. I thought I had a couple that I showed you before and after the same client. Let's see if I can find that. Any questions at this point? Someone wants to type in that's not there? Well, anyway, I have so much content on my website that all right, I did want to address this too. So if you have a bad gut, so this would be your gut. You see, this is good. So here's normal. Here's normal good gut. 2 to 3 bowel movements every single day. No constipation, no diarrhea, no bloating, no gas. If you have something other than that, you have like a leaky gut, bad gut. Now you can see right here on the left, this is good. These little like finger-like things, these are the things that bring in nutrients, right? If you have something other than what I just said, your gut can be, these little finger-likes can be atrophied. So you can be malnourished, right? You can eat a lot of food, but you can be malnourished. Like if you need iron and you're low in iron, maybe your villi right here is not well. Maybe you don't have enough of these that are grabbing all the nutrients in and pulling nutrients back into your body. Okay, so 645, I've gone over 3 case studies, right? Here, I'm tell people this is critical. If you're tired of suffering, schedule and make the appointment and get some help. There's no need suffering. There's too many people suffering. And then lastly here, what I've come up with is this is just you want to start with the low-hanging fruit. Like the low-hanging fruit you want to start with. Then from there, clinically, you have to dive in further. So this is right here is 24 reasons that I find clinically why someone has fibromyalgia that's not healing up. Low vitamin D, like suboptimal. Like vitamin D should be around 80. Maybe you have leaky gut. Maybe you got hormone problems. Maybe you have a leaky brain. Like your brain perceives pain. So if you have a bad brain, you're going to perceive pain more. Maybe you've used antibiotics. I mean, there's lots of things here. Like I don't want to go through all these 24, but these are the 24 things that I look for. But you always want to start with the easy things, the simple things, and go from there. Always start with simple things first. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open it up. If anyone has any questions, you can type in a question. I'm going to, I'm just going to unmute everybody, and you might have to give permission to unmute. But if someone wants to speak a question or ask a question, I'm open to that, or you can type in a question.
Hi, Dr. Hugh. This is Kim Montalvo. Can you hear me all right?
I can. Thank you for asking a question. Means a lot.
I was going to type it in, but it's going to take me too long. So
Yeah.
Thank you for having this discussion tonight. And excuse me, my fibromyalgia has been really off the charts, as I mentioned in the earlier chat. And so my question is, like, on both sides of my family, there's history of diabetes, right? I've never been diagnosed with diabetes. I'm 55 years old. My issue has been, was IgA nephropathy. Subsequent to my transplant, I developed fibromyalgia. Now, in November, I'll be celebrating 23 years of my transplant, and my numbers have
nice.
always been excellent, and they continue to be excellent. But now I'm starting to think, like, because you're bringing up blood sugar, glucose levels, things of that nature, that is it possible that, along with fibromyalgia and those symptoms, should I get checked for, like, should I start checking my own glucose level, even though when I do my fasting blood work for the endocrinologist and the nephrologist, like, should I start just
Yes.
checking my blood sugar outside of those quarterly blood work? You know what I'm
Yeah. I
saying?
mean, that's the most unreliable test. Morning
Okay.
fasting glucose is not accurate at all. And you'd want to check, in my viewpoint, you'd want to check fasting insulin, your A1C, and you want to get those down to a healthy functional range. Like, especially when you talk about your kidney, like, I mean, people that are diabetic, their kidneys are shot because it's the sugar. So you'd want to make sure that your glucose levels, I mean, I would say don't even go over 100. I mean, you won't. So the less sugar you have in your blood,
Right.
the less damage that would be caused on the kidney.
Yeah, because I've been my mother and I would talk about, the possibility of having leaky gut. So like I ate a little while ago, and now like what happens is I get so fatigued I need to lay down. Sometimes food causes me to go like in a food coma, where I can't function. I need to go lay down for 2 or 3 hours.
Mhm.
So I'm just trying to figure out, what is it? Is it fibromyalgia? Is it potentially glucose levels? Is it leaky gut? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So maybe starting out with checking regular glucose levels is a good starting point.
Yeah, that'd be a starting point for sure. I mean, you have a complex case, right? So with these complex cases, you have to kind of look at the whole picture, look at all the, like when people schedule a call, like I have them fill out quite a bit of paperwork. And then these questions ask very specific questions based on organs, like, how's your gut? How's your liver function? It's a lot of questions. So then you get a good idea of what organ systems are weak. And then from there, if you can support different organ systems, then that just allows the inborn healing ability to function better and give you a better chance for recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm here to answer any questions. Person from Alabama, any questions? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate. Oh, was someone speaking?
Yeah, it's Kim again.
Huh?
Sorry.
Yep.
I'm not trying to dominate the questions here, but since nobody else is
Yeah.
asking.
Ask away.
So tomorrow I have a telemed appointment with a primary care physician to tell them how I've been feeling most recently. And I'm just wondering, should I request certain blood tests, or like what do you think? I just want to have a productive appointment with my PCP tomorrow morning.
I mean, I can tell you what I could email you when I get off this call here on this page. Let me see. I might even have it here.
Mm.
No. I'll put a link here to what I order. Like I order, it's like 10 vials of blood, but you're never going to get that from your practitioner. So I mean,
Okay.
you want to look at all these. If you have a problem like that, you want to investigate all these things. Like what's your magnesium, RBC, like what's your inflammatory markers, what's your CRP. These are all important things to like really kind of look at to see how the overall function of the body.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you that when after my transplant, they had put me on an experimental immunosuppressant drug called Rapamune, and it was a statin drug. And my legs became really stiff, and I had to walk with a cane for a while. And then
Oh,
I went
no.
to a rheumatologist who diagnosed me as having fibromyalgia. And so they put me on like Neurontin and Paxil and all these other medications that sort of had like off-label use, you know.
Mhm.
And I eventually just took myself off of all of that. But he did say what's really super important is you need to exercise every day for a half hour. You need to break a sweat. That's really going to help with the fibromyalgia symptoms. And I
I mean,
would say,
that's fine to say, but a lot of the people I deal with that are so chronic, they can't break a sweat. I mean, that would like
yeah,
they would be crashing, they would be calling me all pissed off because they had a flare. Like
yeah,
that's just, that's just someone that's not in like reality with human suffering, in my viewpoint.
right, yeah. Um, so I mean, I in the past I found that, exercise did help, but now more recently I find that it's hurting me. Like I'm shying away from traditional land exercise, you know what I mean? Because it's
Mhm.
hurting too much. So
Yeah, that's where you'd have to do an investigation on more
um,
blood work, and then you can figure out like, maybe you have high ferritin, maybe you have high iron,
mm,
right?
okay,
And that's like, that's would be causing muscle pain.
okay,
Yeah, good questions.
thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else here? You can type or ask.
What about low iron?
Yeah, low iron's bad.
But the iron medication that they give, they make you constipated and they
Yeah,
mess up
that's
your gut. So
yeah, it
how
might not
can
even be an iron problem. It might be a digestive problem. You might not have the correct hydrochloric acid to actually break down iron. Right. So that's where you just don't go slap someone with iron. That's this. So this is a good question. The solution for low iron isn't always iron supplements. In fact, I find that to be not very seldom is that the solution.
yeah, this
Right.
there's this blood test called saturation iron
Yeah. Yeah.
percentage.
That's what I showed you
That
on. Yeah. But
yeah,
you'd want to you want to get a full iron panel, right? So they're not like here. You can see this right in here. The conventional systems they just do cheap labs. Like right here, here's where you're talking about the transferrin, iron, ferritin, saturation. Um, then you also want to look at like your red blood cells. That gives you an indication of iron status. So there's just not one marker for iron.
mhm.
And if someone's judging your case on one marker like saturation, that's a bad deal. Like you got to be looking at literally there's like 10 different iron markers that should be looked at all in combination. Then clinically, you need to evaluate to see what is what's moving forward from there.
Yeah, my hematologist did the iron panel and ferritin, and I think the normal range was from 50 and above to some other number, but it was 56, and she got me out of infusions. But my saturation was low, and she said that they don't treat saturation and they want me to have colonoscopy.
Or do you have chronic fatigue? Do you have fibromyalgia?
I don't know. I went to the rheumatologist and he's doing some tests. I think like
So
for immunity.
yeah. So here's what I know. I have
Mhm.
bias, right? Like I think the medical system is broken. They're not helping people. People are getting sicker. You're gonna do some more tests. You're gonna go here. You're gonna go there. You're not gonna get better
Right.
because they don't have any tools. I'm just being
Right.
honest, right? I mean, I just see it too many freaking times. You can go with this person, that person, or you do this, that, and run around. In the meantime, you suffer. Like that's why you need to
Yes.
schedule a call because it's like you work with me, you directly with me. We don't mess around. I don't refer you anywhere. It's like let's get on a program, let's get our hands dirty, and let's get you better. Like this way the system's addressed is ridiculous. And like I don't know. I'm sorry. I just like, that's the way I feel about it. There's way too many people suffering, and these people that you're going to aren't going to help you. If they were going to help you, they would have figured it out. You're going to know this rheumatologist. Now you want to go, you got to go to a GI doctor. It's going to stick a scope up your rectum or down your throat, which is crazy ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, they're so limited in their tools. If insurance didn't pay for all these people, they would be at McDonald's.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
Mm, mm.
Thanks for asking
Yeah,
that question.
Yeah, they take forever.
Yeah, they forever. They don't know. You go here, go there, gonna refer you there. Meanwhile, you suffer, you get worse, and life's too short to be suffering. That's my viewpoint. That's why you should call, get on and schedule a call.
But you do think that insulin is the main problem. I mean,
Here's I mean, this is an hour like lecture. I don't think anything's the main problem. I think no one has one problem. No one, this is when I talked about the Grand Slam. No one has one single issue that if you fix this one single issue, you're going to get better. And the medical system works on one solution. Like, oh, here's the drug. You know, like the way functional medicine works, the way I work is we're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8 different things that need improvement, and then you start to get better. Like, for example, do you have GI issues? Are you making 2 or 3 bowel movements every single day?
Yeah, but at the end, I have like the first one is a little smooth, but even in the first one at the end, I'm like more constipated. But
Okay.
during the day, I would have the second one and the third one. I'm constipated in those two too, but I do
Yeah.
get it every day. But the first one is more smoother, but the
Yeah.
last 2 are rougher, and the first one at the end is rougher. You know.
Mm-hmm. So that's just telling you like there's a GI issue component, right? So 80. I appreciate people hanging on for these questions because I really like the questions. 80 to 90%. So just look at this. 80 to 90%. This is like researched. 80 to 90% of your immune system is in your small intestine, 36 feet long. So let me just say that again. 80% of your immune system is located in your small intestine, 36 feet long. So if you have like RA or any kind of these different problems, and if you're not making 2 to 3 bowel movements every single day with no gas, no bloating, no diarrhea, there is a component of your immune system being affected. 100% hands down. And if that's being affected, that's causing inflammation to some degree or another. So if you have slow grade inflammation plus hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, plus like some kind of leaky gut, you can see how you have a complex problem that needs to have a methodical approach laid out to unwind all these different inner winding mechanisms. And that's what's not delivered in the system. They have no clue how to deliver it, and they're never going to deliver it because you have to go to a GI specialist. Now you go to a hematologist specialist. Now you go to the endo specialist. Now you go to the rheumatoid specialist.
Yes, this is what's happening, and then rheumatologist probably put you on chemo.
Yeah,
To
chemo or
suppress your
some kind of
immune system.
steroid, and that's nasty. It's real simple. Schedule a call and get better. I don't know. That's like really how it happened.
Yes,
These are real workable solutions that you have control. They don't need to suffer.
Yes. Thank
Right?
you.
I mean, that's like there's too much freaking suffering. Yeah. Good questions. I'm open to other questions. I'll stay longer. I love these questions. Raina, I don't know if I was just talking to Raina. How much do you charge per session? Well, it's $47 for the consult, and then from there, I need to figure out how complex your case is. I don't do per visits, right? These are bundled plans that we work together for a time period. Individual visits don't work because you can't work with people one time and then they're gone. These are cases that are too tough to do that. What recommendations do you make to address those with chronic low blood pressure? How low? Well, Raina, how low is your blood pressure? So there's a lot of things. You want to look at all the metabolic components, right? Like, do you want to fix the things that are obvious? And then sometimes like the blood sugar will just get better. Or I'm sorry, the blood pressure will get better. Sometimes you have to add some like sea salt. Sometimes you have to do some adrenal supports. Sometimes if you just like you normalize someone's glucose levels, vitamin D levels, get the inflammation going, then the body just starts to revive, right? Like there's no supplements that's greater than the healing power that's in your body. So if you can revive that, then that's good. So yeah, I'm located in Minnesota, but I do all my stuff is virtual. I'm 100% virtual, which means I don't see anybody. It's all virtual. It's all Zoom calls. Everything's virtual. Actually, COVID really spun this whole, COVID was the impetus of like booming this whole virtual telemedicine kind of environment forward for people. But it gives people access to, I don't know, helping people in South Africa and Europe, and I've had people in like Thailand. These, that is, it's a whole new world out there with Zoom, and you can get all this stuff, all over the world now. A very, very low. Okay, so your blood pressure I mean, these cases you'd have to look at everything, right? I mean, but having very, very low pressure, there's some reason and rhyme that is happening, and there's no drug that's going to fix the problem. 90 over 70, yeah. So blood pressure 90 over 70, I would imagine you got chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, brain fog, brain fatigue, no energy, lethargic. That's what happens with those cases. So you just gotta, these are the people I see are really tough, right? No one has a really straightforward case. So you gotta get in there, and you have to do protocols, and then you have to have conversations, and you have Zoom calls, and you get in there and try and work the case and try and turn things around. But I tell people, as long as you're breathing, there's hope. Like, as long as you're breathing, there's hope for you to get better. There's always hope and possibility for people to get well. You have all the above. Yeah. Anytime someone says their blood pressure is 90 over 70, I just know they probably have all these things that are going on. Any other questions here? I'm loving the questions. A lot of people getting a lot of value out of these questions. You can come on or type it. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to sign off. Last chance to ask a question.
So Dr. Hugh, do you send, let's say,
something happened here. I can't hear you. I must have hit a button here. Let me see. I'm
no,
sorry.
that was me. I apologize.
Yeah.
So real quick, Dr. Hugh, when you decide, like, if you decide that you want to get blood work done, right, on one of your consults, do you send that blood work script or order to a LabCorp, let's say?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay, and do you, and then I guess you get the results from that, obviously, but do you at times order stuff that LabCorp doesn't do that I
Sure.
have to, okay.
But that's what these conversations are. Like, if someone's been exposed to mold, right, you probably want to rule out mold. Well, you have to do that through a urine test. That's a special test, not through LabCorp.
Oh, okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. LabCorp is great. They offer, great standard blood work, but there are some specialty tests, mold, heavy metals, environmental pollutants. If someone's been on a farm sticking their hand in chemicals, been exposed to mold, these are things that you kind of have to investigate in the phone call and kind of figure out, what could be all the mechanisms, right? You're trying to search for like the different possible mechanisms. So if someone has I was in a moldy building for 5 years, and I felt like shit, and I moved out and I still feel like shit. Well, you probably still have mold from, even though if it was 10 years ago, mold can still live in your body forever.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. This has been really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Hugh.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have another comment. How can we get tested for things available at the labs? I write the order. Right. So let me just go over this. So here's how I work. What labs cost me is what I charge you. Like, I don't upcharge on labs. So whatever the lab, if the lab costs me $100, I charge you $100. So there's LabCorp all over the country. They're all over. So I have an account with them. So the lab's $100. You pay me $100. I send you this piece of paper, email it, you print it out, you go in the LabCorp, they draw your blood. that email, like when the blood comes in, it comes to my account. And then when I work with clients, I have a portal. I have like a patient portal. I upload that in your portal. I do a review on it. And then you have that data. And then from there, then we move forward and whatever that tells us, whatever the lab that tells us, then we just start working the case, right? Now, if you need like a urine sample or something, then I drop ship from the company. We drop ship it, or the company drop ships it to you, and then you like pee in the cup, and then you send it back. It's all like self-addressed envelopes. You don't think about it. It's just you pee in the cup, you put it in the envelope, and you put it in the mail, and it goes right back to the company. And then when it's done, I get an email that your lab's done. So I mean, I've been doing this now, telemedicine, for 5 years now. So I have all the like bugs wired out and where to get people. And even if people can't even leave their home to get blood work, like I have resources to have a home phlebotomist to come to your house and draw blood. Because some of my clients are that bad that they can't even, like literally can't even leave the house because they're in so much pain. And where are these people going to get better? You know, if you're on this call, you're probably suffering. You're not getting any answers on this conventional system.
So what tests are done for the GI tract? You know, like
You
versus
can
the
do a
colonoscopy?
poop sample. You know, I don't start with that though. I don't start with I'll run a stool sample, and it'll check for like SIBO, H. pylori, protozoas, bacteria, yeast. But a lot of things with the gut can just be handled just like with a clinician like myself that knows what to do. So just because you have a GI issue doesn't mean that you need to have a poop sample. Like I'm not in that camp either. Like I'm a camp where, remember, I always think simplicity. I always start with great standard blood work because that's the cheapest and you get the biggest for the bang. Standard blood work. And then from there, we work the case. And then maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, if things aren't going, then maybe you run a stool sample test. But before you run a stool sample test, you want to, there's a whole bunch of different tools I have in my toolbox. So there's just not one solution. Like there's multiple solutions to handle the same kind of condition. And people need different things. Not everyone, this is nothing like cookie cutter care. Like this is individualized, custom tailored plans that I'm creating here. And then, for example, like all my content, like let's just go to my website. You can see my blog here, right? Let's just go to the blog. So these are all blogs I've created. I have over like 200 blogs. Now you don't have to look at 200 blogs, but within these blogs, there might be like 5 blogs that are very pertinent to you. And I say blogs, this is like, let's say here, this is a blog, but it's not a reading. I have a lot of the stuff in like all my blogs. You're going to see have a 90-second video. And then down here, if you want to read it, then you can read more of it. So this is how you can get educated. So a lot of the stuff that I do is educating you with very specific content that's pertinent to you, to your case, based on all the content I've created. So those are good questions. Okay. Any last questions? All righty. Well, I hope you got some value out of it, and thanks for being here, and appreciate it. And we'll chat later. Take care.